Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I have two articles for this video. One has to do with Iran and Israel, the Jewish state, and the other article has to do with United States of America and the Russian Federation. They are connected by one subject, and that subject is called terrorism. And let me start with first with the Romanian, with a Russian article, and with actually Russian and US article. It's coming from the Voice of Ukraine from July 24th, 2022. This is the title: US seriously considering declaring Russia state sponsor of terrorism, says Ambassador Brink. Okay. So the United States is seriously considering designating Russia a state sponsor of terrorism given the actions of their military during the full-scale war against Ukraine, said US Ambassador to Kiev Bridget Brink in an interview with Radio Free Europe published on July 24th. Okay, according to her, such a step requires careful analysis in accordance with American laws. We use all available means, including many that would apply to a country that is such a sponsor, a diplomat said. However, we also take such a designation seriously, and we will continue to hold Russia accountable in accordance with our law. All right, that's perfect, baby doll. That's good. Let's go then to the other article, but before we go to that, if designating a state as a sponsor of terrorism is based on killing civilians, which to fulfill or to reach a political goal, then we have, I can provide an example. I don't know if it fits or not, you be the judge. And again, Yugoslavia bombing, illegal bombing of Yugoslavia in 1999 by the defensive alliance called NATO, killing civilians and calling them collateral damage, bridges and other infrastructures. Now we can go and, including, for instance, they hit the so-called Slobodan Milosevic's palaces, because they don't have palaces, only we have houses, White House, white, my bad, I should use, I don't know, Purple House or Rainbow House or something, because it's becoming politically incorrect to use it as a White House because of but if you go with this idiocracy, you go to anyway. So let's go back, right? So they destroyed Milosevic's residences, palaces they call them over there, which is it's not a military target if you look at it, right? Then they destroyed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade, didn't they? And they call it collateral damage, killing people. Well, that's, and then destroyed many things that did not have anything to do with military. So nevertheless, that's a reminder. And now, if it's not based on the law, it's based on how we interpret based on our ideology and interest, current interest, because tomorrow we can change that. You can call these guys today like this, tomorrow we call them differently according to how the interest goes. Like, see Venezuela has all kind of embargo and so on, oil, blah blah blah, but then they sent 2 envoys to Venezuela in the past month and a half to get oil from those guys all of a sudden. So they're friends. They just we're gonna give you this, and nevertheless they're not friends, but they try to get oil on their terms, not on the country of Venezuela's terms. So, and now I'm going to transition to the other article, which comes from Bloomberg from July 24th, and this is the title: Iran foils Mossad bombing of sensitive site, Noor News says. So it seems like Mossad, and Mossad is the counterpart of KGB and CIA and MI6, something like that, right? But they're not doing the same job. These are the good people who don't do bad jobs. Only the Russians are the bad people, and KGB somehow has a bad connotation when the other ones do the same job KGB does. If you think that KGB does things or did things that Mossad or MI6 or how do you call this, CIA did not do, then you need to start reading some books. And I'm not talking about you, my friends. I know you are knowledgeable on that thing, but for some people who might have doubts and be feeling offended, do you think Mossad is what? Mossad is doing what is doing, what CIA is doing, what MI6 is doing, what KGB used to do. Defend and take care of their interest, their country, using any method that could work. Hopefully nobody hears about it, and if they heard, in some cases, in all 4 cases, it didn't really matter because they are covered. So let's go and see this article, right? Iran arrested a network of operatives linked to the Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, who were attempting to set off explosives at a sensitive center in a central Isfahan province, state-run Noor News reported. I know. Some people might say, well, do you believe the Iranians? Do you believe CNN? And if your answer is yes, then yes, I believe the Iranians too. They're on the same part. Let's don't beat around the bushes. And I'm not using CNN. CNN is the most obvious. Look at MSNBC and other guys. Look who are those guys who try to form our opinions. Just check them out. See if they have clearance. And from whom and how. Man, it's a lot of information available. You just have to open books or do a few clicks, make some phone calls or whatever, all right, so it says here that the Mossad-linked agents had purposely crossed into Iran from the Kurdish region of Iraq and received months of training in an African country, the report said. Isfahan, home to Iran's key nuclear enrichment sites and missile facilities, has been a target of attacks in the past. Last year, Iranian officials blamed Israel for an incident on April 11 that disrupted power supply to the Natanz atomic facility and caused damages to a number of centrifuges. So, what do you think? It's true that coming from any source of information, we should be skeptical, and especially from people who are engaged in a certain kind of war, like you say Iran. You see Iran and Israel. They're not really friends, if you know what I mean. They're not overtly, shooting at one another. They do unless the Jewish state hits Iran sometimes, but Iran cannot shoot them somehow. And they sometimes kill proxies in Syria or Iraq or wherever Israel wants to hit them. That's fine. So what's the difference here? Remember the state terrorist, the sponsor of terrorism being Russia. Then you get the 1999. It was just an example. I'm not going to go to Gaddafi, how he was really murdered like a dog. You go to Iraq. Nevertheless, and then you go to these guys, the Jewish state and Iran. I think, and this is just, there are books written on assassinations ordered and conducted successfully by Mossad, and they don't deny it. So only the bad guys are engaged in terrorism, or the good guys, click, could be, and do apply the rule to the good guys or only to bad guys, so-called, that we designate who's bad and good. Nevertheless, yeah, they let them designate Russia as a state sponsoring terrorism. Do you think they care at this point? I mean, so many labels that were put on it, and that it's like you cast a rock down, on a canyon. You can't take it back. The same was with Russia. The ball was already dropped. It can't bring it back. So the same here. Russia is already gone. It's already gone. It's not going to come back to, it's not going to be like, oh, Russia, if you behave, we're going to accept you in the world community made out of 3 countries. No, they're gone with China and the rest. Their hopes are zero. They don't try anymore. That's what they said. And I don't know. Each country looks for its own interests. The same Israel, the same Iran, United States, Russia. But we should acknowledge that if you are entitled to look for your interest, and I'm entitled to look for my interest, and if you use a method and I'm using the same method and I'm called bad, you should be called the same way. I mean, that's the way things should work. But we know that they don't work this way. We are supposed to believe that they work that way and do not question it, but we know they don't. But you know, if you say something, oh my God, well, we know how things are, right? Don't we? Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.